Hello, and welcome to our show, Crooked Doctors.
Crooked Doctors, folks.
Today is Friday, December 6th,
Yes.
2013.
This is
And we have Jason on the line.
Jason on the line.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Hi,
Glad to be
Jason. How you
calling
doing
in.
today?
How do we look in
Fantastic.
Jersey?
Looking snazzy? I always look snazzy.
Are we coming through? Can you see your photograph? Do you look nice?
I just have to yes, I look fantastic.
No ego strength problems there. Okay, so Jason is watching us on his computer in Jersey, and we have Bill in the studio.
I'm in the studio, folks.
And Jason, I'm pleased to report that we're being taken ever since we started that Citizens Action Group that we're working on. I am which you're making great progress with. I'm pleased to report that they're taking us much more seriously down at the FBI at 26 Federal Plaza. And
why does it take another citizens group to be concerned about what they have to do as servants, and because we pay their salary?
You know, that's an excellent question, and that's a very good question, because I went down to 26 Federal Plaza today, and this is the complaint that I filed,
Yes.
and I spoke with Sergeant Herrera,
Right.
who
took your complaint?
yes, he did.
Yeah.
And although he was very professional, he was a bit miffed.
Yeah.
He was a tad irritated because apparently it got back to him that I spoke about him on one of my shows.
Yeah.
And, what I said was you go down to 26 Federal Plaza and you submit your complaint. And, unwittingly, you never make a copy for yourself because you trust the government,
Right.
which is a really stupid thing to do.
That's right.
And if you want to,
Zoom it.
yeah. So what we're going to do is, and by the way, over here, because we make it work. And I was operating so close to showtime that I redacted or I covered up my birth date because I don't want,
Oh, okay.
I don't want to be subject to identity theft.
Ooh.
And if you go down here, this was Sergeant Herrera, who I spoke to today.
Right.
And I did make him on his copy highlight the federal statutes, because this is a complaint for the Public Corruptions Unit regarding Medicaid fraud.
Right.
And defrauding the U.S. government
Sure.
by making false claims under, this is Title 18, so this is criminal conduct,
Sure.
USC 286 and 18 USC Section 371.
That's right.
And I made Sergeant Herrera, who, although was very professional, was a little miffed,
Yeah.
a tad irritated, go through my complaint and make sure he had all the pages.
Right.
And he checked the, we're going to go through in about, let's see, 1, 2, 3 documents, Medicaid fraud
Right.
at Riker's Island. So let me do the overview for
Sure.
folks.
Overview, fast one.
Okay, so unfortunately I'm being persecuted through life by Yeshiva University because I was fraudulently induced into entering their medical school.
Sure.
And every week on my show, I present the evidence that shows that I'm being persecuted and that there was crimes in my case, and that pretty much the school has destroyed my life.
That's right.
So it's not about the details of each episode of persecution,
Right.
but basically the big overview is in Jersey City, which is a compelling argument right now, is
Sure.
that I'm in federal court right now, and what we're watching, Jason, is with my complaints to the FBI.
Today.
What we're going to do is drive forward our justice, and we can watch in real time how the FBI is either going to do the right thing,
Yeah.
or the FBI is not going to enforce the law.
Right.
In which case, I have a plan.
Oh.
Because when I can show widespread corruption,
Yes.
I do have reinforcements that I can call in.
Okay.
And what I did in this complaint is I as Jason pointed out, how come it had to get to this extreme?
To the stage.
But I have a whole list of people, and I discussed this briefly with Sergeant Herrera. Yes, Sergeant Herrera, these are all the these are all the co-conspirators right here with their contact numbers.
Sure.
And so what you have is I was subjected to crimes in Jersey City,
Yes.
and then malicious prosecution and abusive process in Manhattan.
Okay.
And the purpose of the malicious prosecution, or the prosecution that I was subjected to in Manhattan, was to create a false record to cover up for the crimes in Jersey City.
Got it.
So, you know, as I'm being persecuted through life, the root of my problem is Yeshiva University.
Sure.
So I'm fraudulently induced into entering this school. I was Martin Bachstein, who's the former general counsel, had a bunch of criminal schemes. I caught him in criminal schemes, and I've been persecuted through life by this university.
Sure.
And I'm trying to get my life back. And what we looked at last week was how Detective Cologne lied on the witness stand.
Yes.
I can demonstrate that Detective Cologne lied on the witness stand,
Right.
and I'll get into those details. So that's the crime of suborning perjury.
Right.
And Assistant District Attorney Alex Spiro at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office committed a federal crime.
Sure.
And I have the LCME documents that I wanted to get to. These were documents that showed that I was telling the truth,
Right.
and that every complaining witness on the witness stand against me lied. And it's very easy to see how the school lied. I wanted to show this because I was asked a question about this. While I'm falsely imprisoned, or while I'm incarcerated in Rikers Island, and I'm incarcerated illegally, here's what's really frightening. And this is what every mother, every father, every brother, every sister, every cousin needs to know. When you're subjected to this criminal scheme,
Sure.
and you're in Rikers Island illegally, there's an attorney there, or attorneys on site from the Legal Aid Society. So I had reported that, you know, once they got me into Rikers, and this is a situation, now I'm in jail, and it's obviously a situation that I don't control.
Sure.
Then they proceeded to increase the amount of aggression towards me, and what they did was they drop-kicked me into Rikers Island Mental Observation Ward so I could be, you know, falsely labeled as, you know, not credible.
Right.
And so the mental observation ward, the doctors, the crooked doctors, keeping with our theme,
Sure.
the crooked doctors at Rikers Island Mental Health Department sought to stigmatize me and discredit me. And what they really did was destroy their own careers. So right now we're in federal court,
I see.
and I'm holding them accountable.
Right.
And I discussed this complaint with Sergeant Herrera. So up until now, and this happened the last time I was down at the 26 Federal Plaza, which is the FBI office.
Sure.
As I'm filling out my complaint, and you get this handy-dandy little complaint form,
Right.
I ran into a member of the Public Safety Committee who sits on Board 12. And Board 12 looks over Washington Heights. And he's filling out a complaint form about one of the police officers, and I said, you know, you better make 2 copies.
Right.
Make 1 copy for them,
One for yourself.
1 for yourself. Because interestingly, when I went to a satellite office, and I discussed this with Sergeant Herrera, they called and they said, there's no record of you making a complaint.
Yes.
Well, apparently that's been corrected, Jason, because
Because
when I went down and talked to Sergeant Herrera today, he's like, oh, well, you're in the system. Oh, how remarkable. So,
it just takes a third party being on television to make sure that they are straight, and that really shouldn't be. They are there to serve us to the best of their abilities, and if they're not, well, do we need our government the way it is? I don't think so.
no, and that's why Jason's starting a movement to take our country back.
That's right.
And with other national leaders, and it wasn't stranger to our founding fathers. You know,
Right.
they created our republic in response to the abuses of a monarchy.
Right.
So I'm going to steal Jason Berg's expression. We don't have problems with authority. What we have problems with is the abuse of authority.
That's right.
So our republic was established. I'm going to have T-shirts printed up, Jason,
Oh, great.
to quote you,
That's
because that was very insightful what you said. They like to discredit me and Jason by saying there's something wrong with us.
Yeah. That's
You know,
the
we have
standard.
problems with authority,
Yeah, right.
but that's not what we have problems with. We have problems with the abuse of authority. So our republic was established as a response to the abuses of the monarchy.
That's right.
So it wasn't unknown to our founding fathers and mothers
Sure.
that the monarch would set up a puppet government with his puppet judges
I see.
and his puppet prosecutors. So what do you do when these people are breaking the law and victimizing
That's right.
you? So they set up a system by which us, we the people,
Citizens, yeah.
could take our country back
I got it.
and hold them accountable, which is
Okay.
what we're doing now.
This is
Well,
remarkable.
the understanding, like most people think we live in a democracy. Actually, we live in a republic
Yeah.
using a democratic format. But in a democracy, 49% of the people won't get anything. But in a republic, the 9% will still be served by the republic because, again, everyone needs to be treated equally. Not
That's right.
some people are better than others.
Okay. So basically, what we got is we don't have a rule by majority. What we have is a rule by majority of people who participate.
And to tell the truth, we don't have representative because every vote doesn't count. It's an electoral college and this, that, and the other thing. So we really do not have representative government.
Well, the
here.
electoral college is put into place so that if the common people didn't have a good enough education or weren't participatory,
Yeah.
that would be harder to deceive.
No, well, not only that. If you got several million people, it's hard to have one person, one vote
Well,
because
there's
the
the
computers wouldn't take that kind
There's
of.
the popular vote and the electoral college. The
There you
electoral
go.
college was put in as a protection, so
I
we
see.
know that there are abuses there too.
That's right.
But what I'm trying to point out is that, okay, we have a republic.
That's right.
Okay, and our republic, as Jason has given us insight to, is that it's not. We didn't create this republic, as a democracy is ruled by majority rule.
Right.
We created this because it was a response to the abuses of the monarchy.
Right, and again, what Lydia says is correct because we don't want tyranny by the majority either.
Correct. Okay, so and the problem that we're having and the problem that our founding fathers experienced was that we've got prosecutors. A government that's run amok, that doesn't serve us, but that we pay for.
Great.
So one of the things I want to look at right now is this is the complaint
Right.
that I filed with the FBI today.
you filed it.
And what I want to show is how we're paying for fraud, abuse, and waste.
Right.
And as I discussed with Sergeant Herrera, a couple things.
Sure.
This is how. So if you're in Rikers Island, like I was,
Yes.
and you're illegally incarcerated, what's very frightening is that the Legal Aid Society
That's right.
sends attorneys in. So one of the attorneys that was sent in was a guy named Russell Crane,
Okay.
and he is a supervisor named Marshall Greene.
Right.
I'm going to show you Marshall Greene's photo in a minute,
Sure.
but not now, because I want to get through these documents. So now I'm incarcerated in Rikers Island, and the level of aggression towards me is increasing.
It's escalated.
Yes. Okay, and this is aggression. Now, when I defend myself, I'm being assertive, because the difference between aggression and assertive, when you're assertive, you set the boundaries to protect your rights,
I see.
not to have someone take advantage of you.
Got it.
When you're being victimized by aggression, it's because someone else is trying to take your stuff.
Exactly.
So there I am in Rikers Island, and they make up an excuse to drop me into the mental observation ward because they want to discredit me
Of course.
as a witness against Yeshiva University for
That's-
lots of reasons.
That's the standard.
Now, right now, I'm suing, and these are, and I'm complaining to the federal government. There are laws that the crooked doctors, the
Yes.
dishonest psychiatrists at Rikers Island have to obey.
That's right.
And so what we're going to look at very quickly is how I can make my case real quickly.
Sure.
So as I discussed with Sergeant Herrera, I have fraud, Medicaid fraud at Rikers Island. They created a whole stack of false records
That's right.
that look like this.
Wow.
Okay, a whole stack of false records. And from step one, and I'm showing this to a federal judge, and you were there in court.
I was there.
Magistrate Judge Vera Scanlon
Right.
has no plausible deniability, nor do the city attorneys. These are part of the list of co-conspirators.
That's right.
So, Drew, if I could trouble you to zoom in. I'm suing for defamation, fraud, portraying me in a false light. And when I'm in Rikers Island, this doctor, Margarita Gormas, okay, asked me if I wanted mental health treatment, and I said no.
Okay.
Now I've redacted my, some personal information here. And so what this says is obviously the woman knew what she was doing. Okay.
Right.
So their first line of defense, or they're trying to create excuses,
Refused?
but no. They're trying to create excuses by saying, we didn't know what we did wrong. Clearly you know what you're doing, because in order to provide treatment, you have to get a consent form from me.
Sure.
Okay, so this is the consent form that this crooked doctor, this she's practicing Soviet psychiatry.
Yeah.
Psychiatry is as a political weapon.
That's right.
So if you could zoom in on this.
Political weapon, yeah.
Our technical director. Okay, this is and this was an exhibit. It's in federal court right now in the Southern District of New York. This is a consent form for mental health treatment and medication. I do not take medication. I do not need mental health treatment because I'm there illegally.
Right.
Okay, so Margarita Gormas, on May 26, 2010, asked me, do you want mental health treatment? No, I do not.
That's right.
That's why she filled in her handwriting, refused to sign. Okay? No, thank you. What part of no didn't you understand? Okay? So
let me just interject. The whole point of our government, and it works, is that we have to consent to their authority, and if you don't consent, they are out of order against we the people. And when they do that, they're in contempt of their own rules of the institution. All laws, statutes, and ordinances are for our institutions, not for we the people.
Well, even more, because of the abuses of the psychiatric profession, there were very strict limits placed on them because, and particularly they would pick on vulnerable populations like women.
Sure.
If you go back to the 1910, 1920s,
Sure.
Psychiatric institutions were used as de facto prisons.
Sure.
And if you were a man who married into a wealthy family,
Yeah.
you would bribe some crooked doctor, some dishonest psychiatrist like Margarita Gormas.
Absolutely.
They would drop kick you into a psychiatric hospital, and there were normal, decent, perfectly normal, mentally healthy, stable women who lost 20 years of their lives being locked up in a psychiatric prison that was used as a psychiatric hospital that was used as a de facto prison, so their husband could steal the family money, and then everybody would have sympathy for him because his wife was crazy and he could have mistresses. And this was what men did before divorce was readily available.
That was a standard, if you would.
So there were because the patients' rights movement was started in the 1920s by women like me who had their lives destroyed by these crooked doctors. There were very strict rules placed on this. So you have to ask for consent. Okay, so there's no consent here because I refused to sign. Now, and just stay right there. Here's another consent form. This is Mary Ann Capone. Okay, she is a licensed social worker.
That's right.
She calls herself a mental health clinician. And again, she asked me, do you want mental health treatment? No. And you can see right here, this is on May 27th, 2010. And again, she writes in right here, patient refused to sign. Okay, so what part of no didn't you understand?
Exactly.
No, I do not want mental health treatment. You can't get past step one.
That's right.
You have no business creating these false records. And this is Exhibit O, right?
That's right.
Okay, and again, Sergeant, the FBI have this. And then they created this form, okay? And their story changed from patient refused to sign to patient unable to sign on May 27th and June 1st. And the person that's doing this is Dr. Spritz and Lena Blau, because they're the supervisors. And they changed their story because this is a comprehensive treatment plan wherein, it says right here, I reviewed I have participated in a review of my treatment plan. I discussed it with my clinician/psychiatrist, and I agreed to participation in the plan. Now, obviously, I didn't sign this, right? So their story changed from patient refused to sign to patient unable to sign, okay? So that's fraud. It's criminal fraud. And how did they change? Why did these supervising psychiatrists, Dr. Spritz, change her story? And why did Lena Blau change their story? Because they claimed, and here's how stupid this is, they claimed that in the where I was being housed as an inmate, there were no computers. So I couldn't sign. Now, here's how stupid this is, and I explained this to a federal judge, John Gleason. Okay, I'm housed here in inmate housing in the mental observation ward, and just down the corridor is where these doctors in the mental health department at Rikers Island have their offices.
That's right.
Okay, so they can print out whatever they want. They have access to computers.
Absolutely.
Now, I am taken past their offices. Down the corridor, it's literally like down the hall, right? Every day, right? Because I'm here and they're here. Every day I walk past their offices to go to recreation, to go to the recreation yard. And almost every day I walk past their offices to go use the law library. Now, I'm in Rikers Island, okay? So this is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are guards there, okay?
Right.
So if they needed me to sign something, it is a relatively simple matter to have a guard escort me to the mental observation ward. Did we lose a phone call?
I picked up and then hung up.
Okay. It is a relatively simple matter since I'm in Rikers Island, and they've got guards 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this facility operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that if you really needed me to sign a form, you would have had a prison guard escort me down to the mental observation board, and I would have signed something. So their excuse that I was unable to sign because the computers were unavailable is garbage.
That's right.
It's even more garbage because if you zoom in on Exhibit M, what you'll see is that it's time, date stamped, right here, okay? So obviously the computers were available because this comprehensive treatment plan was created on May 27th, 2010 at 6:08 and 29 seconds in the evening.
That's right.
Okay? Now, if you zoom out a little bit, so it's time, date stamped, so the computers were available.
That's right.
Okay, so this is the comprehensive treatment plan. Now, I showed this to U.S. Marshal Shane Doyle, if you go out a little bit.
Sure.
You can come back to us. I have a videotape where I show this and all the exhibits that I filed in court to U.S. Marshal Shane Doyle. Now, the viewing audience knows that I have this because it's about a 40-minute videotape, and I already aired about 10 minutes of it, and it's up on my Crooked Doctors channel on YouTube. And I've got U.S. Marshal Shane Doyle saying, and I asked her to read this, and she says, oh, yes, right here, I can see it's time, date, stamped. Okay, so their story, the fraud that they're executing at Rikers Island is the patient refused to sign, and no, we have to make a story now because we've got to discredit Lydia, we've got to get rid of her.
Absolutely.
So patient refused to sign changed to patient unable to sign. Why is the patient unable to sign? Oh, well, there is no computer availability in inmate housing. Okay, that is the most ridiculous.
It's asinine, folks.
Thank you.
Well, Lydia, what got you into Rikers?
Well, Detective Colon lied on the witness stand. All the complaining witnesses lied. My medical school claimed that after I was physically assaulted and almost murdered at Jersey City Medical Center, I called the school and I said, I've had it. Give me my letters of recommendation. Those are data points on a timeline. And those data points on a timeline protect me from the threats I got from Vladimir Jelnov. Vladimir Jelnov is a crooked doctor at Jersey City Medical Center, and not only did he commit the crime of false imprisonment against me, not only did he commit fraud and Medicaid fraud by by creating all these false records and also holding me as a prisoner in his locked psychiatric ward. But he threatened me, and he said, if you don't shut up about Yeshiva University, Lydia, who's we are going to lie about you some more and claim that you were mentally ill for the last 20 years. So these people threatened me. They acted on their threats. By the way, Jason, you should be aware that Nino Falcone, who's the dishonest attorney / municipal court judge in North Bergen, who called Jersey City Medical Center and had the security guards physically assault me, because that's the only way they could get me in that hospital. Okay. Now, security guards are not at a hospital, are not empowered by the state to use physical force against anybody. Because they almost murdered me, Nino Falcone also committed a very serious federal crime, which was soliciting the crime of violence, for which he can go to jail for a lot of years. So Nino Falcone is scared to death now. He did Yeshiva University's dirty work, and he can be prosecuted. So you've got all these crimes at Jersey City Medical Center. These people almost murdered me. I call up my medical school. I said, I've had it. Give me my letters of recommendation. I have every right to protect myself against that dishonest psychiatrist. I have every right to put a stop to my persecution. And they refused to give me my records and claim that I was harassing them. Okay, so that's how the propaganda works. You accuse the accuser. I was the one who was harassed. I was the one who was stalked. And the propaganda campaign is whatever they're guilty of, they accuse you of doing.
One thing here is Lydia Radin has often quoted Soviet psychiatry. And the definition of Soviet psychiatry, it's a way to silence political dissidents. And I'm sure this plays into exactly what Riddy's going through.
Exactly, because we now
political dissidents.
We're American dissidents.
I see.
Okay, and Soviet psychiatry is using psychiatry as
to silence political dissidents.
That's right. You practice Soviet psychiatry. It's
show trials.
Soviet Union show trials, which is what I was subjected to. So my medical school, I'm the one who was harassed. I'm the one who's being stalked. Ultimately, I was almost murdered. So they're creating, these dishonest,
bogus,
right? The school officials, my anatomy professor, the Jimmy David, the psychiatrist, who's been lying about me for years, the school's attorneys who I caught lying. I'm named as a witness against all these people. Some of them have been my adversaries since like 1994. They filed false criminal charges in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. So I'm going through this ridiculous Soviet Union show trial. So I'm illegally convicted. Detective Cologne lied on the witness stand. Alex Spiro suborned perjury. The LCME documents, which if I can get to today or next week, show that all the complaining witnesses lied against me. And these were the documents that were not provided to me before I went to trial.
That's right.
In the crime of obstruction of justice. So what the audience needs to know is this is how dangerous these people are. Okay, they lie to put you in prison, and then when you're in prison, they drop you, kick you into a locked psychiatric ward and try to discredit you. Now, this is, if you would just zoom in on this, this is state law. Okay, this is McKinney's Education Law, Section 6530.
That's right.
And this is the definitions of professional misconduct as they apply to physicians.
That's right.
Okay, so and again, this is as it applies to physicians. And I gave this to Sergeant Herrera, and I said, what you want to do is, the excuse that the crooked doctors at Rikers Island are making is, oh, we didn't know what we were doing is wrong.
That's right.
Okay, well.
It doesn't hold water, and why?
How can you not know what you were doing is wrong when you were hired by the state and you've been doing this for years? I mean, what a pitiful excuse for their stupidity.
Well, not only that, that's not a viable defense, because according to state law, and this is McKinney's is a publisher. No, go in. McKinney's Education Law, Section 6530, line item 26. The doctors are required by law to comply with all the federal, state, local rules and regulations
Statutes.
governing the practice of medicine.
Right.
Okay? So to say you didn't know what you were doing was wrong, it is not a defense because you've admitted to violating state law.
Sure.
And another part of state law, which I'm going to point to right now, and again, Sergeant Herrera at 26 Federal Plaza, and I asked him, I said, you're probably going to want to highlight this for the special agent
Sure.
and for the U.S. prosecutor. This is McKinney's, which is the publisher. You can go into any public library and look this up. This is New York law.
That's
McKinney's Education Law. Education law governs the definition of physician misconduct as it applies to physicians. So this is McKinney's Education Law, Section 6530, Item 26. Please zoom in for a second. They are performing professional services which have not been duly authorized by the patient.
That's right.
Okay? So that's why they're required to get consent. So they're violating New York state law.
Right.
And in order to violate New York state law, that's why they don't have a viable defense to say we didn't know what we were doing.
That's right.
Next week, if I get a chance, what I'm going to do is show you this is this is a federal offense because under 18 U.S. These are the federal statutes that
Sure.
that control criminal conduct.
Codes.
So this is Title 18 USC, United States Code Service, the United States Code. I'm sorry.
Code.
Thank you for correcting me, Bill. I appreciate that. You know, Bill has two family members who
Yeah.
are attorneys.
Yeah.
Doherty and Doherty.
Doherty and Doherty. Yes.
Right in Jersey City.
Yeah.
So thank you for correcting me, Bill. I appreciate that. So this is Title 18, right? This is 18 USC, United States Code, Section 286, and 18 USC, Section 371. They are making false claims. So when Rikers Island, the city of New York,
That's right.
the city of New York defrauded the federal government
That's right.
and making false claims, because not only did they make these false medical records to discredit me,
That's right.
but they charged Medicaid for it. They actually had the temerity, the cheek, the gall to have the
taxpayers.
federal government pay for it. Okay, so these are your tax dollars,
Those are
ladies
work.
and gentlemen.
Tax dollars at work, folks.
Okay, this is what you pay taxes for, Jason, so that a bunch of crooked doctors at Rikers Island, you can go back a little bit,
Rip you off.
can rip you off. Thank you very much, okay?
And technically speaking, there is nothing in the Constitution that says that we are to be taxed. And the IRS is a fascist organization that has no rules or rhyme or reason to they act. But they think they are God's gift to man. They are they are Satan's gift to hell.
Certainly a case can be made for the IRS running amok.
That's right.
And we certainly saw that last week. Thank you for that segue,
right.
Jason, because this was put into the hands of federal judge Pamela Chen. If you would zoom in on this, Drew. And this is the court case from about the 1970s, 1980s, where I provided this federal judge with, this is the Bob Jones University case.
Right.
And yes, I will be making a complaint to the FBI. So this was the case that was fabricated, and what you need to do is read William Rehnquist's dissenting opinion.
Yes.
Here we go. Dissenting opinion, okay, where he says, look, they just made this stuff up. None of this has any basis. They were just out to get Bob Jones University.
Sure.
So they fabricated this.
It was a witch hunt.
Yes, it was. It was a witch hunt. Thank you. So they fabricated a reason to go after this Southern Christian school, which had no victims coming forward.
That's right.
But here at Yeshiva University, I'm falling over the bodies,
That's right.
literally. But I don't see the IRS acting to revoke Yeshiva University's tax
That's
exemption.
right.
Why? Why is there a double standard? So that's why
the reason why it is because the government wants to make, because of the government's failure to do what it needed to do during the World War II, they're trying to do something more. But if you're doing something illegally to help someone who has been a victim and they themselves become the perpetrators of other victims, it's hypocrisy, and the state needs to take back their charter to be a school.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to close down Yeshiva University.
Sure.
Revoking their tax exemption.
Right.
Last week we saw, for example, that the school stipulated to, in my criminal trial transcript, the school stipulated to committing a fraud, to fraudulently inducing me to enter their school based on false promises.
Okay.
So just to Drew, if I could trouble you, just to refresh the audience from last week, right? This was my criminal trial transcript, page 364, where the school stipulated that there was absolutely no support for my project, and this is a required graduation project, contrary to the College of Medicine's promises that they support student research 100%.
Sure.
So they stipulated to committing fraud in the administration of student loans,
That's right.
in the administration for which their student loans can be revoked because they misrepresented. Okay, so we can revoke their tax exemption. We can revoke their ability to administer federal student loans, and I've got more evidence than this.
That's right.
But, you know, what we're going to do now is I'm going to submit these complaints, and we're going to see what the FBI and the federal prosecutor are going to do about this.
That's right.
Now, if they refuse to take this seriously, yes, there is a plan B, but the bottom line is these are your tax dollars in action.
Your tax dollars at work.
And what's very frightening is, go ahead, Jason.
No, it's the tax dollars. What's really outrageous is that they don't give us a service. They give us what they consider service.
Well, this is fraud. This is outright fraud, and this is the list of co-conspirators. So if you zoom in on the co-conspirators, all these people have no plausible deniability.
And I'm really glad that a couple of weeks ago you went to court and you stopped the prosecuting attorneys in Manhattan from destroying your evidence. And that's a federal crime.
The videos.
It's a 20-year term in jail for changing any documents or wishing to destroy anything. Evidence needs to be there for forever, because who knows? Somebody wants to do some research on a crime that happened X years ago, and they go in there and they find, oh my God, this man was innocent, but he's dead now. But the thing is, what do? You find out who was responsible. The state would have to pay back that individual's estate for the victimization of that individual. Crime does not go away because the person's dead. Good case is the Agent Orange that the federal government is trying to escape. Thousands of people have died from this, and all the victims in Vietnam. This is an example. My wife's husband died of Agent Orange. As soon as he died, they closed the case. But it's still that the Monsanto, the wonderful agents that we have, is creating all these deaths with the new challenges of organisms that are changed chemically.
I went to court, and Jason made phone calls, and people came with us, and what they wanted to do, this is a list of co-conspirators. Okay, so this would be New York City Attorney Carolyn E. Crook, that's her phone number, and her supervisor, Martha A. Calhoun. I got it. Okay. There are four federal judges who have this information. Have they called the FBI? Have they demanded criminal prosecution? That's right. I was in front of Judge Vera Scanlon, and I reviewed with her, their excuse, at least twice, their excuse to federal judges was, quote, they do not know what they did was wrong. Well, that's clearly absurd, because they knew what they were doing was wrong. They presented me with consent forms. They had to know. So they knew when I refused to sign them, and refused their so-called treatment, then they changed their story and fabricated some ridiculous excuse to create false records and bill for them. Right. They know what they're doing is wrong because they're required by state law to know and comply with all the rules, regulations, and laws governing the practice of medicine under McKinney's Education Law, Section 6530, number 16. I think we got a phone call. Pardon me?
He hung up as soon as I picked up.
Okay. Now, Now I'm illegally incarcerated in Rikers Island. Ms. Reed, who's an investigator from the Board of Corrections, she's on site at Rikers.
Yeah.
This is her badge number and her phone number. What excuse has the Board of Corrections done to, not to correct this and to continue to victimize me?
Okay.
This woman right here, Noelle right here, she's a benefits advisor at Rikers Island. I've got an audio tape where I call her up and I say, what do you do, after I was released, what are you doing about the fraud? And you can hear her double talk.
That's right.
Okay, legal aid attorney on site, Russell Crane.
There you go.
Okay, that's his phone number.
That's right.
And his supervisor is Marshall
There
Greene.
you
Okay, so I've got audio tape conversations and meetings with Mr. Crane where I say, Mr. Crane, okay, you are part of the Legal Aid Society.
That's right.
Okay, you need to report them to their licensing boards.
That's right.
Now, if you just zoom out for a minute, here's Mr. Crane's stupid excuse, okay? Because my case is being managed at a higher level, okay? And he's like, I only do landlord-tenant cases. I only come to Rikers Island so the inmates don't lose their apartments. So I'm putting blinders on, Lydia. Don't tell me about the... So here's where his excuse breaks down. So Mr. Crane, as you're walking into Rikers Island and you're walking through the hallways to come to your office, where the inmates are going to be brought to you, and you're putting your blinders on, accidentally, you look out and you see, oh no, I don't want to see no evil. Oh no, accidentally,
That's right.
I see an inmate getting beaten.
Yeah.
Okay? So Mr. Russell Crane, when you see that inmate being beaten, I'm going to take this phone call in just 1 second. So when you see that inmate being beaten, do you report that crime?
Right.
Yes, you do.
That's right.
Okay, so why are you putting blinders on when I report this crime to you?
There you go.
How come, Mr. Russell Crane, the law doesn't apply to me?
That's right.
Because if he was coming into Rikers Island and he saw an inmate being beaten in front of him, being raped in front of him, being taken advantage of in front of him, he would report that crime and put a stop to it.
Sure.
So when I sit down with Mr. Russell Crane and I say, I'm a crime victim, and by the way, Mr. Russell Crane, you go to work every day, and it's your federal taxes that are paying for this. How come you and your supervisor, Marshall Greene, at the Legal Aid Society, won't put a stop to this? I'm victimized because my attorneys allow me to be victimized, and you, ladies and gentlemen, are ripped off as taxpayers in fraud, abuse, and waste because these attorneys are part of the fraud. Could you please show Marshall Greene's photograph, and then I'll take the phone call. This is Marshall Greene, okay?
That's his name. Yeah.
That's Marshall Greene at the Legal Aid Society, and he's noted as having, he's supposed to be like a living legend. Okay, so Mr. Living Legend put a stop to fraud. The city of New York is defrauding the federal government and using me as a stooge.
That's right.
Let's take this phone call.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our show, Crooked Doctors.
I just want to say that I'm pretty appalled at Riker's.
Wait, just 1 second. I want to get your audio. So we got a caller.
Having trouble.
Okay. So now speak slowly and clearly so we get your audio. Go ahead, caller.
I'm pretty appalled that Rikers Island is defrauding the federal government, and I would like to know who I can call in the Government Oversight Committee to let them know I want this paid back.
You know what? That's what we're going to have to do next week. I'm going to have to get phone numbers for the Government Oversight Committee. This money is going to have to be paid back with damages, and the crooked doctors at Rikers Island need to be criminally convicted and have their licenses to practice revoked.
Great question.
And we're going to watch in real time the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI at 26 Federal Plaza. In real time, we're going to watch them do their job. And as I said to Sergeant Herrera, these are the crooked doctors, the dishonest psychiatrists, Sergeant Rivera, that have the temerity, the gall, the nerve to decide whether you are fit or not fit to carry a weapon Okay? They're the criminals. There's no difference between the people who are in front of the bars and the people behind the bars.
Just a minute. Caller, you raised
there-
a very
there
good
is a big
question.
difference.
You want to
There is a
know...
big difference.
No, you want to know how to get damages, and she will address that next week, how to get damages. That is his question.
Okay. Jason, wait, don't hang up, caller. Jason, what do you got to say?
The difference between the police and the criminals is that the difference is that one is free and one is interned. But it's really great when the police themselves are interned for the same crimes that they are arresting these street criminals.
You're welcome, law enforcement officers, police, sheriff, marshals, FBI, and NYPD, because it's me, Lydia Radin, that's holding the dishonest, crooked doctors responsible for their crimes. These are the crooked doctors that can take that can declare you unfit and destroy your career, and it's stopping with me. And you're welcome, U.S. military too. Right, Bill?
Absolutely. And again, the caller, damages is what it's all about, and she will be addressing that next week.
But this is not just me. This is damage.
We want a lot of people to be seeking damages, you see.
This is defrauding the U.S.
Snowballing effect.
This is defrauding the U.S. government.
Exactly.
This is the city of New York using a fraud, trying to create a revenue source by using me as a stooge to defraud the federal government out of Medicaid funds.
And Lydia is the tip of the iceberg of what's going on.
Thank you for that.
Anytime.
Well, I think we have another caller. Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Well, you are. Thank God that you have the tenacity to stand up to everyone, and you're still alive. And with your inspiration, you are helping other people get through their challenges.
Let's see what this.
I don't even know why, in God's name, that this has been going on for over 20 years. This should have been put to sleep as soon as it started. But again, it's easy to convict the victim of the crime, and it's easier to let the criminal go, especially when the criminal is the establishment.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Let's see what this caller has to say. Go ahead. Hello, caller. Thank you for calling our show.
Yes, just a point. To make your point more viable, you'll have to go further than a nickel and dime cable show. You'll be pounding your head against the wall for the next 20 years with that. You're going to have to step it up. Nickel and dime cable show doesn't get you anywhere.
So what would you like me to do to step it up?
I disagree.
Well, I disagree with that because
I disagree, yes.
we can criminally indict these people and out them. So, I mean, if I have to, I will go door to door in Manhattan.
Yeah.
These are your tax dollars in action,
This
ladies.
show is so important. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
And why it's really important, because this is being documentation of the paper documents that have been, some of these have been thrown out by the courts that are supposed to represent the victim against criminal acts, and they're not doing their work. And by every time Lydia goes on and she shows this, it's giving more ammunition for her case and more embarrassment for the establishment.
We're going to have to criminally indict these crooked doctors.
Yeah, 1 second. Do we have case law? Or are you establishing case law? Can we clarify that?
We don't need case law. We have statutes here.
You are
I mean,
case
this is
law?
how
Is
much. How
you're
much do you
creating case
need?
law?
I am not your patient.
I see.
Okay.
No.
Well, pardon, no, didn't you understand?
Okay, I see what's going
So
on.
I was in front of federal judge, magistrate judge Vera Scanlon.
I got you.
And the attorneys for Carolyn E. Crook
Yes,
and Michael Laub.
that's right.
They're. I'm like, why are we even litigating this thing? Why are you even dragging me through this nonsense?
That's right.
The Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and I have videotapes and audio tapes. They're all going up on the
I got
internet.
you,
they should be prosecuting these people. So this is your city government defrauding your federal government.
Taxes won't work.
Yeah, and I'm not, and like as you said, I'm just the tip of the iceberg, because I also have audio tapes of a former inmate who we were having a conversation, and I tape recorded it, and she's like, yeah, you know, this is how much we failed people.
That's right.
She pretends to be schizophrenic so that she can get a handout from Social Security insurance, from SSI.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, you know, I got to go to see this psychiatrist, and she makes stuff up.
Absolutely.
And she knows what the clinical signs and symptoms are, and she pretends that she hears voices and all this other nonsense.
Sure.
I'm like, you're just doing this so that you can get a few $100s a month to live.
Yeah.
And this is how we failed others.
That's how the system works.
You know, this is the best you can do in life. Like, we didn't give you an education. We didn't give you a grant to start your own business. This is how we failed our fellow human being. Okay. Like, you would tolerate being stigmatized as a person with a major mental illness just so you can get a few $100s a month to eat. That's disgusting. Yeah. You know, the waste of human potential is just. Go ahead.
But the thing is, it's just that it's a person's set mindset wanting to be more. If a person wants to do less, they get entitlements from our government. And the real bad thing about entitlements is that the government gives, but the government doesn't ask anything back. If you just participate in your community with what you've received, you are a better person, because in the law of Jewish law, you never try to knock someone down. You always try to bring them up. When you give something, you want something back, and it gives that man the sense of pride. But if people don't have a sense of pride in their life, they're ludicrous.
So we've got an Orthodox Jewish school filled with rabbis that's supposed to be following Jewish law to lift people up. And what we got is they're persecuting me. They've destroyed my life, Heidi Weissman's life, almost John Cocasey's life, 34 former students who are suing right now for physical and sexual abuse going back decades. This is not a school. Okay, this is a criminal entity that needs to be shut down. In the next 10 minutes, because I was asked this by one of the U.S. Marshals asked me, so what do the lawyers have to say? Well, the lawyers are liars.
That's right.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, when you support the Legal Aid Society, and they send in to Rikers Island Mr. Russell Crane, he blinds himself to the crimes, making up excuses about why he can't do the right thing. And I confronted him just in the last couple days saying, so that's how you're putting on blinders, and you're double talking and back talking and making up all kinds of excuses because you're refusing to deal with the fraud at Rikers Island. Okay, so how are you going to explain this, Mr. Russell Crane? Because I just put you on a list of people who could have put a stop to this 2 years ago. Sure. And how is your living legend, Mr. Marshall Greene? Can you please show Mr. Marshall Greene's photograph again? I'm sure this man's going to hate me. Right there, Marshall Greene. Okay, you need to put a stop to the fraud, not by victimizing Lydia Radin, but going after the wrongdoers. That's okay? Right. The crime and corruption happens because good people who could put a stop to it participate in the crime and corruption. My attorneys participate in the crime and corruption as co-conspirators. Instead of being vigorous advocates for me and putting a stop to it. So this is Mr. Marshall Greene, a supervisor at the Legal Aid Society, who supposedly has a reputation as being a living legend. What is he doing? He's help victimize me and rip off federal and state taxpayers.
Just quickly, what Lydia Radin is saying is true, because Marshall Greene, he's in on it.
I have a question.
Sure.
What is his greatness from? Fraud?
Apparently, Mr. Marshall Greene has been a legal aid attorney for the past 33 years.
That's it.
And, so you send a legal aid attorney into Rikers Island so you could, I'd like to know who's paying who's paying the legal aid attorney, Russell Crane? Because he's supposed to be trying to get my apartment back.
Right.
So, what was this? Just, this is just like you send the legal aid attorneys in just to
just for show.
just to generate another revenue source.
Sure.
So, so the whole point of this was they just wanted to get on the gravy train.
Of course.
Because the legal aid, when you donate money, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legal Aid Society,
Right.
they're not supposed to go along with crime and corruption.
Well, that's it.
So now what Russell Crane is going to have to do, and what Mr. Marshall Greene is going to have to do, is they're accountable to their licensing board, they're accountable to the FBI, they're going to be accountable to the U.S. prosecutor,
So
they're going to
good.
be accountable to a government oversight committee,
That's right.
and they're going to be accountable to we the people.
Yeah,
Because
Constitution.
you're, we the people who are paying for this fraud.
That's right.
This is like an outrage that you would put me through the mill like this.
They're picking our pockets, folks.
Thank you.
And,
And we got a few minutes left. I just wanted a U.S. Marshal asked me this question, so I wanted to show this very quickly. These are this is I want to move to the LCME document and just show one. Now, because I didn't have time to redact it, I just covered up some personal
well, go
information.
ahead, do
But
that.
this is the Liaison Committee to Medical Education, and these documents that were withheld from me deliberately in the crime of obstruction of justice show that all the complaining witnesses against me are liars.
That's right.
Okay, so on this form, keep scrolling down, what you're going to see is this is Ms. Lily Lombardi. She's a registrar at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. February 5th, 1998, she's reporting to this is the Liaison Committee for Medical Education. She's reporting that I was dismissed for non-academic reasons. I was dismissed from medical school because I refused to sign a contract releasing the school from liability in my case,
Right.
okay? I did not withdraw, okay? I was dismissed for non-academic reasons. But on the same date, the school created this document, the same date, February 5th, 1998, where they claimed that Lydia Radin, it was highlighted here, has been withdrawn. I wasn't withdrawn, okay? I was illegally dismissed. And look at all the people who are in on the fraud, okay? This is a memo from Lillian Lombardi, the registrar, okay? And these are all the people on my promotions committee.
That's right.
Okay? So the people on my promotions committee were the complaining witnesses against me. Michael Reichgott,
Right.
Jimmy David,
There you go.
Janice Bennett is now at Columbia University, and she's a liar.
All right.
Okay, so all these people on my promotions committee are lying. Okay, and Michael Reichgott, who is my dean, and Jimmy David, who's the dishonest psychiatrist who's stalking me through life, these are some of the documents that I could have used to discredit them as witnesses on the witness stand.
That's right, and they got buried.
They didn't get buried, they were deliberately withheld from
well,
me
that's it. That's
to illegally convict and illegally incarcerate me.
wow.
Do you know how frightening this is, Jason?
This is.
So
It is. I mean, like I've been victimized in my life too, and I feel where you're coming from. And with the We the People movement coming along, we're going to be able to right the wrongs. And you know what's one thing? I don't want to see one person in jail because the jails in this country is the big business. It's now going privatized.
It is. It is.
And we got to stop people
Big
being
corporation,
incarcerated
multi-trillion-dollar.
for what they think their rights are.
It's
But
been documented.
just a point of information, We the People are having a meeting in Hudson County in Union City Public Library at 6:30 to 9 o'clock on December the 12th. Everyone is welcome. If you don't live in the county, that's fine too. As long as you're a part of the community of the state of New Jersey, you can participate and attend this meeting. We welcome all to that educational process to definitely take back our republic from the bureaucrats.
So if you go to a meeting in Union City, and we'll make this announcement again because we got less than 10 seconds left, less than 5 seconds left, we're going to show you how to take your country back.
Yeah.
And we're out.